What's up, co-reporters, and welcome back to my channel. It's time for a recap of what went down on The Ultimatum Season 2, Episode 6. So everybody goes home after that boys' night and the girls' night situation, and Antonio is quite upset about the way in which Alex spoke to him and the claims he made about Roxanne's feelings towards him, right? So just to recap, Alex told Antonio that Roxanne doesn't respect him and considers him to be her whipping boy. And Alex doesn't believe it. He thinks that Antonio doesn't believe it. He thinks that Alex is lying because he wants to get under his skin, into his head, so that he can get with Roxanne at the end of this experience. And so now Kat, at this point, her hands are kind of tied, right? Because at the end of the day, Antonio's her man, but she's in this experiment with Alex. You know, it's really annoying. Let me just say, I haven't gotten to complain about this yet, so let me complain about it now. Some names are too similar. Raya and Ryan, Alex and Antonio, they're tripping me up. Sorry, you guys. This is like the third Love is Ultimatum video I'm shooting today, and my brain's getting scrambled. It's time for lunch. So anyway, yeah, so she's between the two guys, but of course, Alex is her man, so she got to stand by her man. And so she tells Antonio, listen, I got to tell you something. Alex's parents, they sent me a text message after they met Roxanne. And what they said is that it's very obvious that Roxanne does not like you. And that another thing that came across was that Roxanne had told them that she had wanted to end it with him for a while, but that she's just been too busy to do that. And again, Antonio, he is just so damn delusional. He is delusional. Whoever said this on Reddit was so right, that he is Ken from the Barbie movie, right? It's Roxanne and Antonio. I should just start calling him and Antonio. So and Antonio is so delusional. He's like, no, not possible. That can't be true. You know what? Wow, this is a scheme. He told his parents to say that so that you could tell me, and then this helps his lie, and then it's going to keep getting under my skin, and then before I know it, Alex is going to be off running with Roxanne. There's no way that she would ever say that about me. This poor man, Antonio, you are going to be so hurt. You must be so hurt watching this show play out on Netflix and seeing for yourself the complete and utter lack of respect that Roxanne has for you, and how she talks crap about you to anybody who will listen completely unprovoked. Okay? So at this point, Antonio decides to tell Kat about her man. So he's like, listen, Kat, I want to tell you something. I think Antonio is a liar. I just don't trust him, blah, blah, blah. So Kat, she doesn't believe him. And she's like, no, like, you're just saying that because you're upset about what he told you about your girlfriend. But at the same time, Kat, it's like, listen, his girlfriend, who like quite literally hates her own man, is telling you the same thing too, that Antonio is someone who lies about, like, you know, little inconsequential things or whatever. And it's weird. So it's not like you're just getting that from Antonio. Don't forget, you've gotten it from Roxanne as well. So at this point, Antonio starts crying and decides to call Roxanne to ask why Alex thinks that she doesn't respect him. And then she takes a long pause because she's like, guilty, obviously, it's true, before saying that it's because they talk about things that their partners lack. And then he like, while he's still talking to Roxanne, he calls Alex an SHIT bag, and then Kat yells from the bedroom, don't call him an SHIT bag. He is not an SHIT bag. And then Roxanne's like, listen, like, come talk to me in person. And then she hangs up. And guess what and Antonio does? He gets to running, run, Forrest, run, all the way to Roxanne's apartment to see what she's going to tell him about this situation. And I'm sorry, but I found that really funny. So now Alex goes home to Roxanne, all kind of like, you know, agitated. She's pissed off because her man just called her and spilled the tea that, like, you know, this man said everything about how she doesn't respect Antonio or anything like that. And so she's asking him questions about how boys' night went. And so he's just like, it was good. He's being very like nonchalant and stuff and very casual, where like she would expect, and I think even myself, I would expect like real full like rundown, nitty gritty of what went down and what was spoken about, especially if you're going to say something so heavy to somebody, right? And he doesn't do any of that. He just like really downplays the entire situation. And so at this point, Roxanne's like, okay, well, he's not going to be truthful, so I have to force this out of him. So she's like, well, why did you tell my ex that I don't respect him and that I see him as a whipping boy? Did I ever tell you that? Did you hear that? Is that a direct quote? And so Alex is like, no, but like that's the sentiment, right? Like that's how you speak about him, that you completely lack respect for him. If my girlfriend ever spoke about me like that, I would see that as her lacking respect for me. And she's like, but did I specifically say that I don't respect Antonio? And she just acts like it's the most ludicrous conclusion to draw, right? When literally everybody has come to the same conclusion about her, which is that she quite literally hates Antonio and doesn't respect him and thinks he's a loser and thinks she can do so much better, and like he should be so thankful that she even gives him the time of day because he doesn't deserve it. But here's the thing. Even though Roxanne is being really obtuse to save face here, I understand her being upset with Alex for being so harsh with Antonio. Okay, so I'm like, all right, I'll give her a little bit of leeway there. Then they start talking about how Alex doesn't always help clean around the house and whatnot. And he says it's because sometimes he just doesn't feel like it or he's too busy to do it. And she's like, but we had this thing, like we agreed that on Sundays, this was going to be a cleaning day and you just never show up to the task. He's like, you're not my mom. Stay in your lane. I'm like, oh, wow, like a little bit of aggression there, sir. Like, what do you mean you're not my mom? Like, this is something that we two as consenting adults, responsible adults decided on. So even if you don't feel like it, this, that, or other, you have to stick with it. Like, because it's an apartment. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. How much time does it take to clean the thing between 2 people? Just go ahead and do it. Like, we're all tired, but you have to freaking do it. And yeah, I was like really irritated. And here's the thing. He goes really low here because he's like, like I'm just busy and tired. Like any respectable woman would understand. I'm like, oh, who are you talking to? Because I know you're not talking to me. Respectable woman would understand that. What are you talking? Like we both work. It's not like you're paying the bills out at work and she's sitting around at home and should have the place clean. You're both working. So why are you acting like you should be any more tired than she is, right? God, Kat, bless your heart. Listen, Kat and Antonio, I don't know how you do it with these partners because both of them are intolerable in my opinion. So I will say though that like the big crash was something that I do feel like Roxanne low-key deserved. She low-key deserved for someone to put, because isn't that what she said too? She and Alex are both like, oh, I need someone to put me in my place. Well, there you go. You got a man to disrespect you the way that you constantly disrespect the man who has never disrespected you. There you go, right? How do you like them apples, right? So anyway, we get back to the more peaceful, happy couple, Ryan and Trey. They come home after their respective girls and boys nights, and she tells him about how they seem to be the most stable and happy couple at the moment, and how Raya asked her if she sees herself dating him after this experiment. And then Trey gets all excited because remember, Trey's like in love with Ryan, who in my opinion is kind of like real lukewarm on him. And he's like, oh, she asked you that? Well, what is your answer? What do you think? Could this be something after the experiment? And of course, in typical Ryan fashion, she doesn't directly answer the question, right? Like she's just really coy about it. And she said the only thing that she responded with was that, oh, all of this is just stressful. And so at this point, Trey makes a complete and utter fool of himself. He's like, well, like for me, it's definitely a real possibility. No, wait. Rewind. He goes, you know what? Like, it's definitely a possibility that we date after this. And then he notices the silence because she's not agreeing. He's like, for me. Well, how is that going to work, Trey? If this girl doesn't like you, how is it going to be a possibility that you date if she doesn't like you? Let's use our brains here, right? Oh my God. So now let's go to Antonio. He's still running on over to Roxanne's apartment. And I guess he finally gets there. And I'm going to call it, maybe I should go from calling him and Antonio to Antonio Bolt. So he finally arrives at Roxanne's apartment and she gaslights him into thinking that Alex is lying to him about her lack of respect for him. how she like crap talks him to anyone who will listen. And so he cries with relief, thinking she's telling the truth. And I'm like, you poor sweet summer child, like this woman is going to destroy you. And it's actually really sad. And one thing I noticed about all of this is that they're on the couch, right? And so he goes to hug her and he hugs her, but she doesn't hug him back. She's just there with her like arms next to her. And I'm like, oh, look at the body language. You got to like really understand people's body language, right? The body language was saying a lot, a lot. Now, let's get to Raya and James. So at this point, she confronts him about his change in attitude ever since they moved in together. Like at first, and it's true, I thought he was practically in love with the girl. Like he was the one really pushing for them to match up together. She was very much into Brian, more so than she was into James, but James was really, really trying there. And yeah, like he switched up on her, and I could see how that could be like really traumatic for her. And so a good thing about him though is that he can apologize when like he's wronged somebody. So he apologizes to her for hurting her and thanks her for showing him more clarity about like his own relationship and what he wants in relationships. And he's like, listen, even if I showed you a lot of things you don't want in a relationship, I hope I at least showed you some things you do want, right? Anyway, let's go back to the flip side of this couple, which is Trey and Ryan. Trey asked Ryan, this is where, again, this man just keeps on embarrassing himself. I'm like, oh, Lord, like, when will you get the freaking memo? If you keep, like, professing your love to somebody and they keep going, tee and not, like, saying anything to you to, like, reassure you that they have feelings for you, they don't have feelings for you, dude, right? And so after he was like, oh, like, dating outside of this is a definite possibility for me. Like he goes and does it again. He was like, you live close to me, like not too far. I live close to you, not too far, very close. So do you think we'd still be able to communicate like outside of this experiment, like in the future? Like, do you see that happening? And so as usual, Ryan, she's just she laughs it off. And then he's like, what about next week when we go back to our like original partners? Like, can we keep texting? And she's like, text. Like, if you ever want to say something to me, yeah, you can like reach out if you need something. But she's not like, yeah, I'm gonna like have a hard time not speaking to you. Like, I wanted this, I wanted that. Like, no, she's just like, yeah, if you need something, like if you forgot like a roll of toilet paper here, you can text me. Oh my God, the poor guy. Like, please read the room. So, she's obviously really in love with James. And again, this is a relationship of damn near a decade, okay? And in my opinion, it was very, very inappropriate of Trey to even be asking her these things because at the end of the show, she could be engaged to James. And so why the hell would she be talking to this guy that she was living with as a fake married couple when she's engaged to James? And on the other flip side, the other scenario where he's like, oh, when we go back to like our original partners, how freaking disrespectful is it to Raya that you would want to be texting with this girl that like, was your fake wife for 3 weeks? Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working on your relationship with her, like seeing if you want to get engaged and everything. Like, this is why I made that video. I'm like, Trey, like, is the worst. Like, he's terrible. Remember the way Lisa treated Raya, like calling her like that Hooters bee and like dumb and just all this stuff. Like, she actually like mushed her boyfriend's face over this girl and everything. Like, and then she shows Trey a sliver of attention and he's like, you're the ideal woman, Lisa. You're so beautiful. And all this stuff. Like, this guy, he's just so desperate for somebody to like him, and it just makes me really sad. It's like, Trey, you got to like yourself, buddy. Trifling Trey. Now, this was something that was interesting because you don't really see producers talking to these people. But at this point, like, he gets like a one-on-one session with the producer, and the producer's like, Trey, can you see yourself like spending the rest of your life with Ryan? And he's like, you know what? Like, the question is still out there. Like, I love Raya, but like, the question's out there on whether or not I could see myself spending the rest of my, God, put up this one, the rest of my life with Ryan. And I'm like, oocha, you are trifling Trey. Now, at this point, it's time for the switch back. So the couples go back to their significant others, and Roxanne also gets the opportunity to talk to producers, like, head to head. And she's like, you guys, like, there is something wrong with Alex. I didn't see it before, but like, Jesus, like, he is crazy. But then she ultimately apologizes to him for the confrontation that they had, where he's like, you're not my mom. And so Alex accepts her apology. And so he's like, all right, well, let's get back to packing. And Roxanne's like, wait a minute. Wait a damn minute. What about you? Is there anything you would like to apologize for? And ice cold Alex was like, no, not particularly. Like, yeah, maybe I said some things I shouldn't have, but I don't regret them. So I don't want to apologize. Can I say this, you guys? Like, and I know the word is overused, but he gives very cold, like narc vibes. Maybe even like sociopathy vibes. Like his vibes are cold. Like I see like just darkness in his eyes. I don't think he's a warm person. I don't think he's a good person. And he gives me like the creeps, the way he speaks to people. Like it's very creepy, cold, and detached. Like there's something missing there in him. So now, when Kat wakes up, she discovers that Antonio had secretly packed his things up. She says that when she went to bed, he wasn't there. And then when she went to run her errands and came back to the apartment, he still wasn't there. But this time, his things weren't there either. And I'm like, Antonio, where did you sleep? Like in the vestibule of the apartment or what? Um, under Roxanne's bed? Sniffing her socks. Like, where did you sleep, bro? And how did you have the time to do all of this? Like, just very weird vibes. So he comes back and then he tells her that he's gotten everything that he needs from the trial marriage. So basically, he's done. I'm like, this is why this guy is so derpy. Like, dude, it's done. The trial marriage is done. Everybody's packing up and going back to their original partners. So why are you acting like, oh, like this is all well and good, but I want to go back to my girl? Like, you were supposed to go back to her anyway. Like, what? He's so strange. So, unless they did something funky with the editing, because it didn't make any sense. It just made him look weird. So he does complain about how Kat doesn't open up enough. And I was like, okay, that's random, but okay. And then he says that he's mind fucked because Alex and Roxanne are telling him two completely different things about like her lack of respect for him. And then at this point, all the couples sit head to head, face to face at that like notorious table where Nick announced that Lisa was pregnant. And so like they talk about like, how the experiment went for them and everything like that. And one thing I noticed was that Trey and Ryan were the only couple to walk in arm. And you just know he felt so damn good about that. Like, ugh, doing that in front of your girl, like that is so messed up. Like just trifling Trey. I keep telling y'all. Now, he does announce to Raya at the table in peak trifling nature that he caught feelings for Ryan throughout this experiment. I'm like, thanks for telling me in front of everybody, you freaking asshole. And then at this point, she tells, so at this point, like Nick asks Ryan, like what she feels about like, Trey and if she can actually see herself like married to him in real life. And she's like, listen, I think that like being married to Trey could be fun and I can picture it, but like it's very obviously in a very flippant way. I don't think she's seriously like, counting sheep, thinking about like getting married to this man in the future at all. Then we get to James and he's like, talking about Ryan's relationship with Trey. And he's like, listen, like it's hard to hear all this, but I want the best for Ryan, even if it ends up being Trey and not me, although I do want it to be me. And then he also says that he realized moving day that Ryan was the love of his life, which I find to be really like annoying. It's like you had 7 years to determine whether or not Ryan was the love of your life. And all of a sudden, conveniently, move-in day, when another man who appreciates her more than you do says all these wonderful things about her, she's the love of your life. Please, please. He's like, when the guys talked about how she had nice eyes and a nice personality, it made me realize that's the love of my life. Okay, like you didn't see her eyes before in 7 years, you never seen these things, you didn't experience her personality in 7 years, please. And when this guy did that in season 1, like when he had that realization, he proposed immediately. And I was like, okay, at least you did that and you're out, right? I think it was Hunter or something like that with that girl. And they were out like that. And James didn't do that, right? So I'm like, not buying it. I need the Hunter energy here. And then it kind of felt like to me that he realized that Ryan can pull any guy she wants because she's absolutely stunning, but he can't pull any girl he wants. He had to convince Raya to get with him, right? So it seems like it's more jealousy that the guys were into her and that she could pull any single one of them in 2 seconds flat. Then we get to Trey's girl, Raya. And so obviously she talks about how like hurtful it is to hear that her trifling man is in love with another woman, caught feelings and everything. And how James pulled like a bait and switch on her, like he acted like all these things, but then like when they actually got together, like he didn't want to be physically affectionate or anything like that, and so she felt like she didn't get the like true trial marriage or anything like that. So we'll see. And so Trey does say that, like, listen, I still do love you. I want to see how the 3 weeks with you goes. And, you know, Ryan just taught me that like other great qualities exist out there in the world. It's not like I'm completely discarding you or anything like that. So that was an interesting little exchange. And then at this point, we get Vanessa Lachey, the host, and she like kind of cries, breaking down about how like a therapist with her and Nick like taught her like that she can open up to Nick about like you know, different things that have been troubling her in life and everything like that, which obviously is an issue that James suffers, right? That was a big block for him when it comes to proposing to Ryan, that he feels like he can't open up about some dark secrets that he's got in his life. And so Vanessa, she's just really urging him to open up. She's like, listen, being vulnerable like that is just so wonderful and liberating, that you've got that person that's got your back. Like, please trust her and go ahead and like, you know, do it, move forward with it, which is like great. And then at this point, Kat accuses Antonio of not being serious about the experiment, like not being committed or anything like that. And then Roxanne says that Alex doesn't possess any qualities that she wants, and that he made no effort to provide the things she wanted and doesn't appreciate him as a person. She really dug her claws in on that man. Like, she was sick of him. And I'm like, go ahead, girl. If you feel that way, you feel that way, right? And I do want to give like a shout out though to Antonio. There was this moment in this like sit down dinner where he was like, you know what? I want to tell you something, Alex. Like, your success triggers me because I'm not successful. And I know that that's something that Roxanne really wants, like a successful man. And I'm just trying to do my best to get there for her and everything. And he's like, you know, and I don't like the way that you told me that Roxanne has no respect for me and that I'm her whipping boy. Like, it was really, really hurtful. And then you know what Stone Cold Steve Alex says? I'd do it again. I'm telling you, this guy has some seriously dark energy, you know, like, oh, no empathy whatsoever. It's very creepy. And so the respect thing, of course, like being a topic of conversation here, is kind of like, it's very contentious. And then Kat brings up the text message that she got from Alex's mom saying that like Roxanne obviously doesn't respect or like Antonio. And then Roxanne tries to intimidate them into like shutting up. She's like, did I ever say that specifically? Did I ever? And she's like all up in Kat's face because Kat is a more like soft-spoken, like, you know, girl than her. So she's really trying to like intimidate her out of it. And I don't like it. Like, it just, to me, it all the more proved what everybody sees here. And she feels very threatened that the truth is coming out there. So at this point, everything that needs to be said has been said. And so the couples go home to their real partners. And Raya is super pissed at Trey, super hurt that he announced having feelings for another woman. And she doesn't know if she can continue on with him. And then he says that he still wants to marry Raya. So she needs to give these 3 weeks a shot for him to prove that that is still a thing. And so he reminds her that she was the one acting all in love with James, matchup day, right? And she's just mad that James did not give her the husband experience that she wanted. And I was like, you know what, trifling Trey, you kind of ate that one thing, because I do think it's true. When she walked in, she immediately talked about how she was so attracted to Brian, right? Like, she was ready, beyond ready to leave your ass. And then when Brian and Lisa left, she connected with James. And then she was like, oh, I never thought I'd want marriage or kids, but being with James for all of 2 hours taught me that I do want those things. I would love it. Like, you don't think that was hurtful, Raya? You don't think so? Like, and it's true. Like, she wanted like this experience with James. She didn't get it. And now she's pissed that her man got it with somebody else. And so they both cry about how their relationship now might be over. Dun, 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 dun. What do you guys think? Is this the end of Raya and Trey? Can their relationship survive Ryan Gate, James Gate? Do you? I'll be honest with you. I think it's over. I think that Raya is all but ready to like ditch this man. And I think that this man has caught on to it, and he's gotten a taste of like some, you know, appreciation elsewhere. And he's not going to go back to Raya. I don't see him proposing. I think he's going to try. I think he actually thinks he's got a chance with Ryan. And so he's going to throw away his relationship with Raya in the hopes that he and Ryan can have something outside of the show. But we'll see how it all pans out. Guys, what did you think about the 6th episode of The Ultimatum? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.